Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good day. I thought I'd take a minute to do a little video about doing presentations. Now, this is kind of hard for me to do because for me, I like to, be performative and so forth when I'm standing in a room full of people. So to talk to you about doing presentations sitting in front of a computer is a little bit but it's all good. Hopefully this will just give you a few bits of advice about how to bring together really good presentations and how to make them more engaging when you're doing these forms of work. It's important that we talk through this stuff because it really can be a terrifying experience for a lot of people. So we're going to talk about presentations, how to structure them, and most importantly, how to survive them, because picturing people naked is just not going to cut it enough. There's something you have to manage. And if you really are terrified of these processes, sometimes that management takes a bit of time and effort. So presentations are something that people really hate. In fact, a recent survey noted that on average, people's greatest fear was having to speak in public, and they ranked this higher than death. So that's, the fear of death and the fear of presentation, that's a pretty significant thing to say. I really enjoy doing presentations because I get to speak to people about things that I think are important, but I absolutely hate them, and they are, for me, incredibly terrifying. I know that people often say to me, but you look so confident, you don't even look nervous or unsettled in any way. But the reality is I am shitting myself most of the time when I'm doing presentations. So these types of things can be really difficult and awkward when it comes to something that I do often. It's just that I've learned over time how to manage that difficult and awkward so that I appear to be confident and fabulous and all of that stuff. I am always nervous because people are grading me. At least that's how I think about it in my head. So this is the way that I get past that stuff and do really good presentations for people. Number one, do your research. What kind of presentation do you need to give? What sort of speaker are you? Think about it before you get up there. Who is your audience and how does that connect with what you're doing? All of these things help you to actually get through the task a little bit more detail and help you to think through these processes a bit better. So, you might be a very analytical person and sort of present like a lawyer. You might be more like a teacher and interact with the group and so forth. You might be a politician and get up there and make really forthright arguments, hopefully with some research evidence to back them up. You might be a comedian and use a bit of humour on occasion to pull people in. All of these things are possibilities. And thinking about who your audience is pretty crucial. Are they students? Are they other police officers? Are they people from the public? Are they a bunch of professionals who are probably genuinely grading everything you say? So all of these things can help think through these processes. So stage 2 is looking at the task. Researching the material is similar to researching a material for a written assignment. So you need to go through and find some readings, skim these readings, find relevant sections and points. Consider the different types of messages and variety of material that you can use to do that. So you can use YouTube videos, you can use images, which really helps those visual learners out there. And you can use physical objects and things to explain different types of material. When you're going through all of this stuff, I'd highly recommend that you really focus on reading a bit more material so that you become a mini expert on these types of things that you're talking about. And when you're going through that process, write out your notes and create a concept map of how your ideas tie together. So you might have your core idea in the middle here, the core focus that you're discussing, family violence and policing, for instance. Then as you're reading through the research literature that you've got, you can map out what all of the issues are around family violence and policing off that central point. Then off that point, you can map out Other more specific issues that come up, or alternatively, your references. So Taylor, 2016, Smith, 2017. What do these people say about this issue here related to family violence? Great way of mapping out your ideas when you're just literally sitting there going through a pile of material. It's very hard to track ideas back sometimes if you don't track that from the outset. Stage 3. Who is your audience? How much do they already know? Chances are they know much less than you do, particularly if you've read your research literature and done a little bit of research before you've got up there. And you're in that little realm of the mini expert, which is kind of nice. It helps you to feel more confident. So, do they know not enough? Is it a group of students who are genuinely learning about these types of issues? Or do they know too much on something and you're working with them in that respect, which quite frankly can be a little daunting. How much is too much information is a really good question. I really struggle with this, and you will often see slides from me that have acres of words on them because I just can't quite leave that stuff behind. So you really have to think very carefully about this, and I'm going to give you some tips about this in a tick. What type of speaker are you? How much do you already know about this topic, and how much do you need to read now to feel more confident to present in a way that you feel like that mini expert? Use information and resources that you feel comfortable with. Include small facts that you find fascinating that draw in people's attention. And the audience will actually be more receptive if they can see that you're enjoying yourself. And there's ways that you can practice this to demonstrate that, as opposed to just standing up there and looking absolutely terrified. You need to practice not looking terrified. So your speaking style is part of this. You can be a lawyer who enjoys argument and debate, a politician who inspires people to think and do and act in the community. A comedian who makes jokes. Be careful with this one. It can fall flat sometimes. But if you give it a whirl, you'd be amazed at what a laugh from a whole group can do. It just takes your nerves from up here to down here and takes the edge off in the room. A teacher who enjoys educating and uses different forms of sound and sight and touch and of course interactivity. Get them to think instead of you going blah 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 blah. All of those things can really help you work through those processes. But again, all of these things need to be practiced. It's not something you can just get up and do. Do your practice. Do your presentations with your family. Get them to work through the different things that you want them to do before you present it with others. How do you write your presentations? Now, this is important for a range of different reasons, and I've put this here because you have to consider it. When you're writing an essay, it's a very different form of academic writing that you use. You're generally writing from the perspective that I've got this information, I'm pulling it in here, I'm using these big words that make sense, blah, blah, blah. Still keeping your language simple so it's understandable, but not perhaps going down the path of eating a thesaurus. So you need to still put a logical sequence of ideas together. But you need to do this using brief bullet points, concept maps, numbered ideas, imagery, all of those types of things. You can try writing directly into the PowerPoint, but it can be a little bit difficult sometimes if you're in that essay mode and you just start to write an essay into that PowerPoint. So these are the things that can make your PowerPoint more digestible. Aim for a graphic on each slide so it helps those visual learners in the room. It doesn't matter what it is, just something for them to hang their ideas off as they're working through it. Use a font size more than 20 points because people can't see it, particularly if there are a few rows at the back of the room. Each slide should have less than 50 words. And 50 words is only 2 tweets. It's really not that much. So think about that carefully when you're coming up with your slides. Avoid clashing colours. And in fact, red and blue are some of the worst that you can use. So please be wary of the type of things that you'll do. You'll notice that I just use a nice white background and have words on the background just with a few images, because that really is the best way for people to engage with PowerPoint slides. You can write detailed notes below your slides, and you can do this by using the notes section below. So when you're doing your PowerPoint presentations, you'll see that there's a notes view that you can bring up. You just look in view and it comes up at the bottom. You can write your longer notes in there and just have your dot points on your slide in front of you, and then you can print what's called a notes view, which is where you have the slide at the top of the page and your actual notes or your script at the bottom of the page. So you've still got your dot points on the slide, but you've got the script there, and the people in the audience can't see that when you're presenting. That's gold. Stage 7 is thinking about structure. This is really easy. Think your essay structure. Introduction, where you're summarising your main point of the talk, the outline or roadmap of your talk, structure of your talk that you're going to be talking about, and then the scope or limits. I won't have time to talk about blah. Then you have your body, which is your main points, right? And then you have your conclusion, where you summarise, you repeat the main point, and then you state your conclusions in terms of your future research. Very easy stuff. Practice is absolutely vital. I cannot stress enough how important practice is. Practice with a friend, read your presentation to your cat, whatever it might be. You need to practice over and over again. Be mindful of your physical habits when you're actually doing a presentation. Do you pace up and down? I know I do. I do like this U-shaped taco thing as I'm moving from one side of the stage to the other. My children love it. They watch my videos of when I'm doing lectures and they fast forward me so I look like a dick. Become familiar with the technology before you do the presentation. Know the room you're going into. Go in there and, before it starts, or in morning tea, or during the lunchtime before you present, just to see what it is and you know how all of that stuff works. Record an MP3 of you doing your presentation. Listen to what you do and how you do it. Ums, ahs, all of that sort of jazz. All of these things will help you avoid your nerves on your first day and when you're presenting. And it is really important that you genuinely think about the different ways that you can overcome your nerves. So something I do, I make sure I focus on my breathing. Practicing it always helps me overcome my nerves, and I will practice like 10 or 11 times before a conference presentation to make sure that I'm very, very keenly timed. And other things that you can do like a whole bunch of star jumps to get that physical adrenaline out, but do it in the toilet. You can go and attend to your nature calls and so forth. All of these types of things can actually help you lower your nerves when it comes to doing presentations. Using humour also helps for me. And telling people that I'm shit scared when I'm up in front of them will always help for me. Most importantly, you need to time yourself. If you have been given a specific amount of time, please don't go over that. It is disrespectful to the audience, and it is bloody disrespectful if there are other presenters in the room and they need that time. Don't ever go over time. Time yourself rigorously so that you are absolutely on time. If you need to cut something out, then cut it out. Just bear in mind that you will be nervous on the day. You'll probably talk a little bit quicker, but it's absolutely imperative that you time yourself. So a good presenter has smiles, structure, brevity, some jokes occasionally, interactivity, an unapologetic attitude, some pauses, making sure that you're not, just going from bit to bit. I have trouble with that too. And have some props and multimedia if you can, because it makes it more interesting. And if you, just simple things like, so what's counterterrorism policing? I want you to talk about that for 1 minute and come up with a definition with the people next to you. Don't give them a definition on the slide. Make those people think and you can guarantee they're going to take away more from that session. And after they've thought about it, then give them a definition from the latest woo-ha research that you've found in the library databases, because I know you'll be doing that stuff too. Know that mistakes happen and that sometimes you forget what you were saying, where you were up to. Just take a deep breath and take a moment to restock. People are not going to care. They're not going to judge you if you take a moment to restock. You will always feel a bit anxious and excited before speaking. Make sure you've got some water on hand. And if you stuff up, just keep going. It's fine. If technology is getting the better of you and it's not working, ask for help. Don't stand there and look like a deer caught in the headlights. If it does fail with you, make sure that you've got a printed version of your slides so that you can walk into the room, you've got them there, and if all else fails, you can speak from those slides in the room. Well, I will never forget one of the lectures that I did at QUT. I was in the room, the lights were really, really bright, was about to start this lecture in front of 300 students. I touched the lights switch on the screen to dim the lights a little bit so that they had a little bit more, a little bit less light, and it was less, jarring to the senses. And the whole system shut down, literally the whole system. Still to this day, I don't know what happened, but I ended up doing the whole lecture standing underneath a single spotlight in the front with my printed slides. Always print your slides. So, something else that can help you think through presentations and not feeling as nervous is how to answer questions that come from the audience. Try to repeat the question back to the audience. This gives you time to think of an answer. So you already know what the question is, but if you say, look, can you say that question again? While they're repeating the questions, you can think of an answer. It's gold. It also ensures that the audience has heard the answer of the question correctly. It gives the questioner a chance to correct misunderstandings. And just remember that sometimes there isn't a question. It's just some self-indulgent rant about something they've read or heard or whatever. And you actually may need to just say, after they've talked for 2 minutes, which is very common, you would actually need to say, so just tell me then what's the question that you want me to answer, right? And that'll help them to clarify what they want. It'll help the audience understand what they want as well. So all of this stuff helps you minimize your mistakes so you don't end up at this particular point. I've got this slide of this BMX rider literally flying through the air, knowing that you're stuffed and it's just too late. There's literally nothing that you can do about it. On that note, we are done. I hope that this helps you. Sometimes you will look like a bit of a dick, but the most important thing is that you prepare, that you present well, and you do that to the best of your ability, and hopefully get that message across to your audience. Hopefully that was helpful, folks. I'll see you all again really soon. Laters!